Everyone knows Russia for being the largest country in the world. Many people also know Russia because of the famous Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is the most influential person on the Russian land. He is currently the president of Russia and has also served the country as prime minister. Russian economy. It is one of the biggest issues in Russia right now. Their economy is very stagnant and is not rising in the rates expected. Russia's GDP growth is expected close to 1.5% over the next few years. It is very low considering the level of economic development it has seen over the period. According to stats and experts, if things go like this, Russia will fall behind the rest of the world, which is expected to grow at a rate of around 3% annually. But Russia's economic slowdown is not a new thing. After the economic crisis, which happened around 2016, the Russian government was surprisingly successful in filling the fiscal and monetary buffers that are on the back of the rising energy prices. For the period of the last 5 years, the goal of the Russian government was to achieve economic stability. The Russian government was able to save a lot of money by deducting pension rates and tax rates. They have converted their budget from deficit to surplus, but it came at the cost of the people of Russia. In early 2019, the stats show that the real disposable income of Russians was still 13% lower than that of 2014, and it is expected that Russians are going to live in the same condition till the year 2024. It is the same year when Putin will resign the office as president. While the Russian economy is not showing vital signs of growth, it is still not going to be very unstable anytime soon too. There is a constant flow of money inwards by the supply of gas and oil to foreign countries. And now with the introduction of the new fiscal rule in 2018, the government of Russia can compensate oil price fluctuations till the time long-term average of the price remains above $50, and at the same time, exports don't shrink. Also, the fact that there is low public and private debt in the country, which helps support the economy in being stable. Russia's GDP growth rates are negatively affected by the structural weaknesses, which do not seem to be changing anytime soon. The economy's catching up speed is severely affected by the institutional environment that exists in Russia. Also, the court system is very unreliable. Like any average country, corruption is widespread and there's a lot of interference from the government. There's a very low percentage of private investments, and public undertakings aren't helping much in boosting the economy either. Russia's economy could be fast-tracked to grow into one of the most powerful economies in the world if there are better economic policies. But the problem is that most of the policies are rather hypothetical and not possible under the policies the current government has. Russia could invest largely on its education system and healthcare to increase the productivity of its working force. Many of the experts have suggested the same under the Putin rule, but it has not happened so far. Putin's government has always focused more on directing their budget towards their military and armed forces. Simply a better and less confrontational foreign policy can also go a long way for helping the Russian economy by bringing in foreign investments and opening trade routes. But under Putin's leadership, there is a very less chance of this happening anytime soon. The military and armed forces. Putin has served in the armed forces as well. Maybe that is why his love for the military and the armed forces is much more than the economy of Russia. Since the year 2000, Russian military forces have developed substantially. The statistics suggest that Russia has a fairly coherent and uniform strategy for using its military to achieve its security goals. But regardless of Russia's slow economy, the Russian military has shown signs of being stable over the last few years. It is because even though the economy of Russia has slowed down, It is not like it is going to collapse anytime soon or is very unstable. Also, the spending on the defense sector by the Russian government accounts for 3% of their GDP. Not only this, surprisingly, Russian public also supports most of the decisions that their government takes. And because the birth rate is also rising steeply in Russia, their demographic situation is also stabilizing. Russia is also investing a lot of money in developing better technology weapons and defense systems. Russia can be one of the most intimidating countries when it will come to ground wars or wars in general with any country in the coming times. Is the future good? But the question still arises. Will all this make Russia's future good? The answer lies in the decisions Putin takes and also for how long he bears the office as president of Russia. But in recent times, Russia has improved very significantly in terms of living conditions. According to stats, Russian people are working lesser and living more on average. Also, Russia has been successfully managing to reduce crime rates in the country. The crime rates of Russia are even lesser than that of the US now. One important thing to note is that Russia is alone the only developed country in the world which is also rising its population or birth rate steeply. The government has introduced new policies for internal businesses, making it easier for the business of any kind of scale to conduct its routine business very comfortably. Russia is placed at number 35 in the list of countries in terms of ease of doing business. And finally, the Russian government is spending a little more in the field of education than it used to. Any average Russian is happy only, and their happiness rate is increasing with time. Maybe Putin's Russian government is doing something right.